The Sarawak MM2H is a good alternative to people who find the regular MM2H a little bit out of their reach. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the Sarawak MM2H, who it's good for, how it compares to the MM2H, and what are your other alternatives if this visa is not for you. Aaron here from Offshore in Asia. So if you're interested in moving out to Asia, if you want to set up business there, if you want to set up your life there, if you want to invest there, we can help you to make that happen. Head over to offshoreinAsia.com if you want to learn more. So in this video, we're talking about the Sarawak MM2H. Sarawak is in Malaysian Borneo, up in the northern part of the island, and they are able to set their own immigration rules, and that is why they have their own version of the MM2H, which is different to the mainland peninsular version of the MM2H. Alright, back again, just had to duck out for a quick shave. But back to the video. So a bit of background about the MM2H programs. Well, the regular MM2H was suspended for a while and then brought back in late 2021, but when it was brought back, the eligibility criteria was significantly increased, and from this point, applications just dropped off a cliff. It was reported that applications dropped by about 90%, and a lot of people that were applying or were interested in the MM2H moved over to the Sarawak S-MM2H. So this is where the Sarawak MM2H really started to get quite popular. Then in late 2023, it was announced that there was a new set of eligibility criteria for the regular mainland MM2H. The criteria was dropped. It was still a lot higher than Sarawak, but it was a lot lower than it was previously. These new rules are currently still working their way through the government. We haven't got final approval yet, and there is a good chance that there will be further announcements and further changes made to the already announced criteria on the MM2H. So later in this video, we're going to do a comparison between the Sarawak MM2H and the Peninsular Mainland MM2H. And for that, we'll be looking at the MM2H rules as announced so far. Now back to the S-MM2H. So the Sarawak MM2H gives visa holders the ability to live in Malaysia for 5 years and then extend for a further 5 years. It is also possible to work in Sarawak under this visa, but you have to get approved to do that, and this option is more aimed at professionals and investors. To keep your visa going, you have to spend at least 30 days every year in Sarawak. And the good thing with this is once you've ticked off your 30 days in Sarawak, you are allowed to go over into the peninsula and live in KL if you want to, or anywhere else in Malaysia. The main applicants on the visa can bring their dependents with them. So that would be children under 21, and also their parents can come with them as well. All right, so let's have a closer look at the eligibility criteria now. There are 3 sets of rules in that you can apply for this visa. That's for people in their 30s, people in their 40s, and people who are 50 and older. So if you're over 50 years, this is the unrestricted category. You have to demonstrate that you earn a monthly income from abroad of at least 7,000 Malaysian ringgit. That's about $1,500 US. Now, if you're a couple, you have to demonstrate 10,000 ringgit a month. The fixed deposit requirement, that's 150,000 Malaysian ringgit, which is about 33,000 US. And if you're a couple, you have to deposit 300,000 ringgit. And once you have been in the country under the visa for 2 years, you can subtract 40% of your fixed deposit to spend on property, a car purchase, medical expenses, or education expenses. Now, if you are aged between 40 and 49, the same rules apply as if you were applying as a 50 and over, but there is an additional rule that says you have to either invest 600,000 Malaysian ringgit in property, or have children aged 7 years or over enrolled in a Sarawak school, and that property has to be in Sarawak. If you're aged between 30 and 39, again the same rules apply that if you're in the over 50 open category, but then you also have to demonstrate that you either have children enrolled in a Sarawak school who are 7 years of age, or you have to be receiving long-term medical treatment in Sarawak. If you're below 30, you're not eligible to apply for this visa. There is also a bond that you have to pay on application, and that'll range anywhere from 200 ringgit to 2,500 ringgit, depending on your nationality. That's a one-off payment. And then you have to pay a 500 ringgit annual fee ongoing. You have to be sponsored by a local resident in Sarawak, but this can be your visa agent as long as they're based in Sarawak. You also have to pass a medical exam, and you have to show a letter of good conduct from your home country, a bit like a police check. Let's have a look now at how the Sarawak MM2H compares to the regular MM2H program. As I touched on before, there are still some questions around what the eligibility criteria will be for the MM2H. There has been a lot of movement there. There's been a lot of speculation as to if the program's going to get approved at all. We expect that it will be approved, but there's likely going to be some further changes. So we'll report that to you when we find out. So first up, with the fixed deposit, the Sarawak MM2H requires a 150,000 ringgit deposit into a Malaysian bank. The lowest level of the proposed new MM2H rules is the Silver membership. It's a 3-tier membership: Silver, Gold and Platinum. The Silver membership requires you to deposit 500,000 ringgit into the bank. So that's quite a lot more than in the Sarawak program. For the income requirement, Sarawak requires 7,000 ringgit per month. Previously, the MM2H required 40,000. That was scrapped in the initial announcement for the new MM2H rules, but there could well be an income requirement added. We don't know what it's going to be. We do expect it to be higher than the Sarawak income requirement, but also lower than the 40,000 that was on the previous version of the MM2H, because that just priced a lot of people out. The minimum stay requirement for Sarawak is 30 days. And for the MM2H, it used to be 90 days. They've brought it down to 60 days now. And on the fixed deposit, the Sarawak MM2H allows you to withdraw 40% of that after 2 years. The MM2H allows you to take out 50% of your deposit after just 1 year. The new MM2H is a better visa if you have more money that you're willing to commit to this program. For example, on the Platinum version, the first announcement of that included an option to apply for permanent residency status in Malaysia. We understand there are some questions around that. It may not get approved in the final version. But that aside, the MM2H still does offer more if you have more money to put in. If you don't have as much money to put in, then the Sarawak is a very good option. A very good lean option for residency in Malaysia. Okay, so who is this visa good for? Well, it is good for people, as I mentioned before, who are interested in coming to Malaysia under the MM2H but are no longer eligible, or they just aren't comfortable with putting that kind of sum of money in a Malaysian bank. Not that there's anything wrong with Malaysian banks, they're very safe, but maybe if you just don't have that kind of money on hand, then that regular MM2H might not be the choice for you, whereas the Sarawak MM2H might be a good alternative. It's also good for people who aren't eligible for the PVIP visa. So this is a very good low-cost option to getting your foot in the door, 10 years living arrangements in Malaysia. So it allows you to come to Malaysia, set it up as an offshore Asian base, perhaps to build out a lifestyle here or to build out a business here. It can allow you to do those things. Of course, you'll need the applicable permits if you want to go into business. It's a good visa for people who want to come to Malaysia but don't necessarily want to be in the hustle and bustle of KL or other parts of Western Malaysia. Sarawak being on Borneo, it's going to be a bit quieter. There's still 2.6 million people there, so it's no backwater. You'll have all the services you need access to live a good life and to run a good business. But it's going to be a bit more laid back than Kuala Lumpur, and the cost of living in Sarawak is generally a little bit cheaper than on peninsular Malaysia. Okay, so if the Sarawak MM2H isn't for you, are there any options in Asia? And yes, there are plenty. So here's a few of them. Philippines has an investment visa. If you invest at least $75,000 in the Philippines, you get an indefinite residency permit there. If Bali's your thing, then Indonesia has a second home visa. If you deposit around 130,000 US dollars into an Indonesian bank, you can stay there for 5 years. Thailand has the long-term resident visa. So if you earn over 80,000 US dollars a year, or if you earn 40,000 US dollars a year and you have a master's degree, you might be able to be eligible for the LTR visa to stay in Thailand for up to 10 years. And another good option, if you want to be in Malaysia and you have a viable business, you can move your business out to Labuan in Malaysia and get access to the country there, as well as access to some tax perks along the way. Now, if you're interested in learning more about moving out to Asia, you can head over to our website, offshoreinasia.com. We've got a lot of information there. If you want to book in a consulting call, if you're interested in how do I move out to this particular country, or what are the visas, what's the best visa for me, if I have a business, where is the best place to incorporate, how am I going to be taxed, all that kind of thing, we can help you with all that stuff. All right, so that's it for the video, guys. So in summary, the Sarawak MM2H is a very good visa if you're looking for a low barrier, low cost visa to gain access to live in Malaysia. It has been very popular. We're not sure how popular it will remain when the new MM2H rules get finalized. Some people who were looking at the S-MM2H might go back over to the MM2H. We'll have to wait and see what happens there, but when we find out, we'll let you know.